sounds a very successful venture. Tell us a bit about it.
Well, you said it started 5 years ago as a bit of a side project, really. And year on year, we've seen growth, people using the service and people selling through the site. To the extent that this year, like I said, we're hopefully hitting £1.5 million worth of sales. We've got 12,000 people selling through the site.
And what do they sell? What sorts of crafts are on there?
A real mix of things, actually. What we've seen in the last 5 years is predominantly being soft crafts, so things, making things with textiles, sewing and knitting being predominantly the crafts which we've supported. But increasingly we're seeing things like metalwork, woodwork, and people creating kind of hard crafts, so physical products.
And
like
is it all off the back of things like Sewing Bee and the Great British Bake Off? Is that what's done it?
No, I don't think so. I think we've seen that there's been this movement now for a good few years. And in North America and in Germany, we've seen that movement even, that kind of revolution happen even longer, 10, 15 years ago. So Britain in many ways catching up. The Sewing Bee's part of that, and I think we're seeing a kind of mini revolution happening now, but to some extent it's been happening for the last 4 or 5 years.
So is business for you, is it business predominantly for the people who trade through your site? Are they people perhaps who might be working in a small studio at home?
So a real mix. We get a real mix. So we get people who are just starting out, who may be just plucking up the confidence to make something for the first time and sell it, through to people who have an established business and have a good turnover. And we might be one place in which they sell. They may sell through retail outlets, galleries and museums and things like that. I would say that there's probably 15 to 20% of people, and it's hard to know this for sure, have an established business, and then the other sort of 80% are people who are doing this more as a hobby.
Because we're seeing a lot more of that. I mean, you read any of the sort of magazines, country magazines, hobby magazines, and there are so many of them already out there, telling us people who might be painting crockery, making cushions, and I mean there are some really interesting people who've come to your site, aren't there, for all things like that?
Absolutely, yeah, and we're seeing that, we're seeing that the standard of the quality of the things being made by individuals can match and exceed those that are sold in in the high street or elsewhere, and I think that for me is that's the great thing. And we had someone recently who was commissioned by the Duchy of Cornwall off the back of seeing their work on Folksy to make 500 cushions.
Wow.
To go in the royal household.
Oh.
So it can have a real benefit to
absolutely,
people.
yeah. So even if it's not in direct sales through Folksy, just being seen can lead to things which are great.
Well, thank you very much, James Boyd. Well, really interesting to hear what's happening in the craft industry. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in, James.